Hi everyone, my name is Aaron Bell and I've been with TroutReach since our inception in 2012. Today we're coming to you virtually to the convention, and my hope is to give you a bit of an update on what TroutReach has been up to over the past year. TroutReach is a program within the Saskatchewan Wildlife Federation that seeks to bridge the gap between formal education and hands-on science, and we offer a variety of mentorship and guiding services to young scientists from high school age all the way up to postdoc. And we usually do this through a series of projects that are led and developed by the student. To date, TroutReach has provided support to more than 30 undergraduate and summer students, over a dozen graduate students, and we've produced more than 12 peer-reviewed publications and done in-class visits to more than 40 high schools across the province. So a couple years ago, Stephen Strako met with you guys down in Moose Jaw to talk about ecosystem linkages between wetlands and rivers and his study on water boatmen. But today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the other projects. So Ben is going to talk about wood-boring beetles in trees and the sounds they make. Brianne's going to talk about tiger beetle larvae and what they eat. And Kirsten is going to talk about leopard frogs under ice. And I'll be talking a little bit about my project in northern Saskatchewan, where I'm looking at the relationship between fire and biodiversity on the islands of Lac-La-Ronge. I hope you enjoy these presentations, and you'll be hearing from me a little bit later on.
Hey everyone, I'm Ben Strobin. I've been with TroutReach for almost a year now. Like many of you, I'm an avid fisher. Do most of my fishing up at Chittick Lake, Saskatchewan. Great place, love it there. What first brought my interest into ecology is when I lived about a mile down the road from the crooked trees up around Mayfair, Saskatchewan. So it always made me wonder what made them grow like that, and kind of from then on I figured that I wanted to pursue science because just so many cool things like that really hit my interest. With TroutReach, I'm working on a wood-boring beetle project focused on Monocamus scutellatus, otherwise known as the pine sawyer beetle. What I want to do is I want to record the sounds that they emit when they're in larval form underneath the bark and trees, and I want to be able to identify which kind of species they are just from the signals and the acoustic frequencies that they produce. For my research, I had to gather a lot of larvae, so again I went up to Chittick Lake, Saskatchewan, just up around Prince Albert in the woods. So I brought them back and put them in some logs, and I just had them living with me for the entire summer, listening to the chirps that they produce. It almost sounds like somebody doing up a zipper, so the way they sound is almost like just yeah, this will help us identify the beetles without having to extract them from the wood. We can just, hopefully in the end, we can identify them purely on sound. And from there, we'll see where it takes us. Thanks a lot for having me. Thanks for listening to my little spiel about what I'm doing. And I hope to meet some of you in the near future. Thanks.
Hi everyone, my name is Brenna Mciver, and I started working with TroutReach last year as an environmental biology undergraduate student for my research on tiger beetle isotope fractionation. So for my project, I collected 90 tiger beetle larvae specimens from their burrows in the sandy banks of the South Saskatchewan River, and I then rehomed them and I kept them on a couple of very specific diets. So first, I fed them a diet that was rich in a C3 carbon source, and halfway through the experiment, I switched half of my study species to a diet that was rich in C4 carbon. Now, kind of at the end of the experiment, all of my specimens have been freeze-dried, and I'm working on packing them up to send off to the isotope lab. For my data, I'm really interested in seeing how these different sources of carbon partition in the tissues of tiger beetles as they consume their prey. The species that I'm working with in particular is called Cincindella raponda. It's called the bronzed tiger beetle, and they prefer sandy habitats. Tiger beetles can be used as an important bioindicator in certain environments, and one benefit of determining the isotope fractionation value that I'm looking at is to assess their diet at the base of the food web from field population. Tiger beetles are a really interesting species. They have huge mandibles as pinchers, which make them very intimidating to look at, but they actually can't harm a human being despite how much they really like to try. They have a very interesting life cycle in which they go from egg to larva to pupa all the way up to beetle, and they overwinter in their deep burrows in the sand along the river. I'd love to stay on with TroutReach as long as I can. The support from the community has been really amazing, and I hope that as long as I continue to proceed in my research career, that I can give new students the same advice that all of the graduate students gave me for my project. Thanks for listening to me talk about tiger beetles, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the convention.
Hi, I'm Kirsten Sipos. I love the great outdoors. Anytime I'm outside is when I'm the happiest. I enjoy camping, hiking, which is why I really enjoy field work. I've been with TroutReach Saskatchewan since September of last year, working on a project with northern leopard frogs. Basically, we're just trying to figure out what they're doing under the ice all winter. Are they dormant or are they active? We're trying to figure out as well if they're eating throughout the winter or not. We've been going out setting traps, seeing what we pick up. Northern leopard frogs are a species at risk in Saskatchewan. Frogs in general are very susceptible to any disturbance in their environment. And because the upper Crapel where we're testing for frogs is agricultural land, we want to use this research for better management in the future so they don't end up being even more endangered than they already are. Thank you for letting me talk to you today, and I hope to see you in the future. Thanks.
Hey everyone, it's Aaron again. I've been with TroutReach for the past 9 years, and what got me into ecology was spending time on the islands of Lac La Ronge at my family's cabin, where I really got to appreciate the outdoors and what it means to be deep in the wilderness. My project is looking at forest fires in northern Saskatchewan and how fire size and fire intensity impacts biodiversity of the wildlife living in fire-prone areas. So to get at this question of how fire is changing and potentially impacting biodiversity, I decided to study wildlife on the islands of Lac La Ronge. And islands are essentially a biologist's dream because the communities of plants and animals living on them are more simple than they are on the mainland. And so you don't have to deal with a lot of the complex interactions that are playing out, and it's much easier to study. This is an important question because, as many of you probably know, fire and the way it behaves on the landscape is changing in a dramatic way. Fires are getting bigger, they're burning more intensely, and the duration of the fire season is increasing. This has impacted humans in notable ways in both northern Saskatchewan and Alberta. We've seen large-scale evacuations, but it's also probably having direct impacts on wildlife living in these fire-prone regions. So for now, I'm still working through the data and samples in the makeshift lab that I've put together at home, but by the end of this project, my hope is to provide fire managers in northern Saskatchewan with guidelines on biodiversity and answers to the question of whether or not changes in these fire behaviors are impacting wildlife living in the north. So although TroutReach's projects are broad in scope, they provide a unique opportunity to train young scientists here in Saskatchewan and to further our understanding of local ecosystems in the province. Thank you again for letting us tell you a little bit about our projects at TroutReach. If you'd like to know more about TroutReach, you can visit our website at troutreachsk.com. We look forward to seeing you in person at convention next year.